I'm going to trace out and cut a greetings profile. I'll use a full-size diagram to trace. I'm using Logic Trace 2022, and the first thing I'm going to do is define the four corners by selecting 4 points. Now I'm going to select the circle command. Circle command is interesting because all you're doing is touching 3 points along the circle. The program echoes back the diameter, and you can override that or keep it. There are 2 circles here to trace out, and then you'll see again where the program echoes back the diameter. Now I'm going to start tracing out the internal parts. And I'll be using the trace command. I also use a red pencil to keep track of where I start my tracing and what's traced. My plan here is to create a DXF file for a CO2 laser. I'm going to cut this profile out of a hardboard. The font here in the diagram is quite unique, so instead of using a computer font, I decided just to trace the font the way it was. One thing I should mention here, when I traced out the circles, I traced them as full circles. And if you'll notice, the diagram is not quite that way. The coffee cup, the welcome, and the teapot are joined right into the circles. So to make it a lot easier to trace, I just traced it out as full circles, and then I'll load that file into Vectric Aspire 11.5, and I'll use the scissors to cut those vectors where the teapot joins into the inner circle. The tracing would have been a lot more complex if I would have used the arc command or the circle command. This way here, I just treated it as a circle and then edited it out later. Shown here, I've loaded the file into Vectric Aspire 11.5, and you can see where I'm cutting out those vectors where it joins up to the inner circle. Once I've finished the node editing, then I'm going to run it through the simulator and see how the cut's going to look. Simulation looks good, so I'll resave that file with the editing that I did, and I'm going to load that file into the CO2 laser software. Shown here is the laser simulator, so I can simulate the cut and just see how long it's going to take. I'm using Masonite, which is a hardboard. It's about 22 by 22 inches square, and I'm using a 300 watt laser at low power, low speed to cut this. Easy cutting because it's only an 1/8 inch thick. Also notice there I'm using magnetic hold downs because the Masonite tends to warp a bit. Finishing up here, just cutting out the perimeter. Shown here, I've taken away all the background pieces. The welcome teapot looks good. I gave it 3 coats of black spray.